Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies preview show. We're going to be looking back at the embarrassment of last week's game against Arbroath. We'll also be talking about the news that we got just a few days ago that David Templeton could be out for much longer than expected yet again. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to this weekend's game against Ayr. First of all, David, just to look back at Arbroath, I mean, I summed it up as best I could in our match reaction video. It was just an embarrassment. It wasn't even a case of we played well and just got beaten. We were dominated every single part of the pitch. As I said on Twitter and that as well, we were out-fought, out-muscled and outplayed. That's the simple way to put it. We weren't strong enough in defence, we weren't strong enough in midfield, and we offered absolutely nothing going forward. Got to the point where their fans were chanting, "We want five, we want five." Like, no disrespect to Arbroath, as I said in the video, they deserved the win. But for a part-time team to be chanting "We want five" against you, it's embarrassing. And speaking to fans at half-time when it was only 1-0, they were saying how embarrassing it was then. I never got a chance to speak to MD after the game, but MD, who was there, could hear what the fans were thinking, and I'm sure the club did as well. It was not an embarrassment, and I compared it to the likes of Annan and Stranraer after the game was how I felt after it. I know you didn't get a chance to attend the game, but I mean there's nothing else to say other than it is embarrassing, isn't it?
I think it's worth noting that over the last few years we've had some really notable lows, some really devastating lows. How many high points have we got to talk about? We boast about Rangers at Ibrox. We've got a nice kit this year. Like these kind of can't happen results are happening more and more. I mean, I said on this podcast last week before the game, the only thing to be fair to Arbroath is they'll be fearless. They don't have the time to prepare that we do. They will go on in the game, and from what I saw, that's exactly what happened. Hamilton looked terrified. We looked at the team there. I said this a couple of times so far this season, that when we concede one, we can concede anything. Like, the Kelly game was a prime example. We competed, we were in amongst it. Soon as that first goal went in, it could have been anything after that point, and that's exactly what's been proven. A half-decent team that can finish their chances, and we were absolutely slapped.
Yes, listen, they one of their goals in particular was just nothing you could be done. It was an amazing free kick, right? But the first goal, another error by Ryan Fulton. I think the second goal was a misplaced pass by Brian Easton, I think, into the midfield, and then they attacked from that. And Dick Campbell, I got to listen to Dick Campbell's after-match interview as part of the press conference, and what he said was spot on. He said, we're a young team, and he knew that that in order to get something from us, he had to break our spirit. That's what he said. He said we had to break our spirit, and that's what he did. And what he said was, he said, I did the right thing. I let them have the ball and I counter-attacked them. That was it. That was all. It was easy. And that's exactly what he did. He let us have the ball. He let us play all these passes and try to cut them open. They didn't let us cut them open. They stayed strong. As soon as they got the ball, there were 3-4 guys pelting up top. You know, it's embarrassing. It was embarrassing at the time. And as I said in the video again, the fans were quite rightly, getting their voices heard at the side, because it's not good enough. It's not what we see as acceptable. And, I've got to be honest here when we talk about it. I wasn't a big fan of Stuart Taylor's reaction after the game either. I asked him, did he have a message for the fans? And he said that the last thing the fans want him to do is sit up there and apologise. And I'm kind of thinking, that's actually what something we would like you to do, is say, listen, hold my hands up. We got it wrong. We weren't good enough today. What I will say, Andy Ryan, I think, summed it up very well. Andy Ryan basically said that, for anybody who hasn't seen it, he knows it wasn't good enough. And see, when he was coming over, you could just tell by his presence he was raging. He was absolutely raging. And during the game as well, you saw him turning to players and going and asking why they're throwing it up high over the top for him and all that. So,
don't get me wrong, for the manager, you can understand why he might not be going with the emotions on his sleeve like an Andy Ryan. It's perfectly respectable, but at the same time, from a press conference, I'm wanting assurances that this isn't going to happen. Now, obviously, if it can avoid happening again, he will do that. But I can tell you now, it's Thursday night. I have no idea what to make of this game on Saturday.
Yep.
Like you, going back to a point you said about Dick Campbell, saying we've got a young team. When are we going to face the fact that, right, we've got an academy, aye, brilliant. We've brought so many players through. I've said about this success by accident with Accies. The reason we have an academy and we have so many graduating from the academy is because we refuse to bring in first team players. Teams like Dunfermline, they recruit their first team. Their philosophy is we bring through our first team. That doesn't make it special then, that the fact that so many players are coming through the first team, that is what our approach is.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be always celebrating. I mean, at the end of the day, just because they're playing for the first team doesn't mean they're good. It doesn't mean they're special talents. I mean, I saw that don't get me wrong, I get the same impression when I saw the lineup before the Queen of South game. I've seen it, I thought, really? I don't understand this approach. I mean, Kyle Monroe, and I'm not picking on individuals and I'm not having a go at anybody's ability as a player, but what's Kyle Monroe's position?
Yeah, he was playing right wing.
You know what I mean? Like, he's been totally ineffective all season. Now, don't get me wrong, he can hold his own, he seems confident, he's fit, he gets in amongst it, but I genuinely think he scored his goal against Livingston and they thought, right, winger.
I get what you're saying. I really do, because I was looking at it going, why is Kyle Monroe a right winger? And that, I think that generally purely comes down to, at the moment, is that's just that again, and we see it every single week, is that's all we've got. You know,
again,
the only other forward option on the bench was Lewis Smith, and he was obviously saving him, so he had an option to come off the bench. We'll touch on David Templeton just before we go on to talk about Ayr. Came out there, David Templeton's got another hamstring injury, and he's out for, quote unquote, the foreseeable future. Now, for David Templeton, that could mean anything from 2 months to the end of the season. We won't see him again. So it's opened up a bit of discussion amongst Accies fans online about David Templeton and the situation. In my opinion, I think we need to start looking at his contract in some way, because he will be our highest paid player. I've no doubt about that. And as I said, we're lucky if we see him 10 times a season. That's lucky. And I get previously, he single-handedly kept us up. When he's on his game, when he's fit, he's unplayable. He's one of the best players in the league, but he's never fit. That's the problem we come against. And I don't know, he's just seriously unlucky. He's just obviously injury prone and he's got these problems, but that money could be used on a good first team player that hopefully would stay fit. Now, I'm not saying rip up his contract, kick him out into the street and anything like that. It's been suggested, you know, he's doing his coaching with us, him and Brian Easton and that, so I don't know if you maybe discuss about moving on to a coaching contract or whatever. I don't know the solution to it, but it's something I think we need to start looking at, because it's impacting us, I'm guessing, financially, and also it's weakening the team, because all this money is going on him that we have to wait for rather than spending that money on a player who can come in the now and make a difference.
I said it in the last podcast again, is somebody that we can't rely on. And that's fitness-wise, not ability-wise. One of the best players I have seen at Hamilton over his time, but that's in the past. That's not now. Like you said, they won't be able to. You can't just rip up his contract. We can't afford to pay a guy off like that. We will pay him for the remainder of the season, but I think you know as well as I do, he won't be playing. Because even then, it's getting back to a standard and a fitness, and it's not going to happen. Without being overly negative, there's a reason a guy like that is at Hamilton, and it's probably because if you put him out on the street, like you said, I don't think you'll find many clubs would touch him. I think the injury record speaks for itself, and unfortunately, I do have a horrible feeling. I think that's the best of David Templeton long gone. We always said David Templeton could make the difference to Hamilton, but we never realised that could also be in a bad way, because the bulkier wages that could go on, that should be going on to that player, that makes the difference, that we rely on Templeton to be, it's going to be the difference that cripples us now, because he will be the highest earner and it will be by a distance, and that's money wasted if we're being truthful. So it's I'd be surprised if we've seen anything substantial from him for the entire season. And it just kind of adds to everything that's going on at the Rays at the moment on the pitch. Direction, squad ability, just where are we going? Who is going to be the key man? I mean, Andy Ryan is probably the only positive performance-wise. Jamie Hamilton started well as well, but who is her best player? Who's the star man? Who is the guy you think, Christ, we need to keep an eye on him?
Well, I mean, I can, from what we've seen, what you said, Andy Ryan there, even against Arbroath, it was little half little bits here and there. But even at that, it looked as if he had a bit of service around him, or even ironically, a David Moyo up with him, he maybe could have done something against Arbroath, but he just didn't have that. For me, that player this season looks to be Andy Ryan, without a doubt. And just before we move on to Ayr, it is worth saying that what we're saying about David Templeton doesn't mean we don't appreciate what he's done previously. We love him. We love him on the podcast, man. He's unbelievable. But speaking from where we are now, it's something the club needs to start looking at, in my opinion. So to move on to Ayr, as you said, I do not know what to make of this game. After the weekend, we're level on points with them. We sit 9th, they sit 7th. We're level on points. They obviously are without a manager still. I honestly don't know what to say. I said it would be a draw against Arbroath. And usually I would look at this game and think, managerless, we're level on points. They've got one or two players that I would keep an eye on, but overall I think we've got a better squad. But that's what you say against Arbroath. So I don't know what to make of this game. I'm expecting what it was like in the cup, where dominated possession but didn't create many chances. I'm kind of expecting the same thing. I reckon they'll have looked at the game against Arbroath and basically said, we can give them all the ball they want because they're not creating anything with it. As long as we stay strong at the back, we can hit them in the counter-attack. And I hate to say it, I think that's what we're going to see at the weekend. I obviously hope I'm wrong, but what we said just before the call was, or what you said just before the call was, anything less than 3 points should be classed as unacceptable.
I think this all adds to how unprepared we've been for the season, because coming down for the SPL, a well-established SPL team for 7 seasons, we knew, you and I, any other fan knew, that we were going to have the bulk of the possession, and also we knew that we aren't prepared to have the bulk of the possession. We've not got the players, we've not got the style or tactics in us. We just didn't know what to do. I mean, against Hearts B, it wasn't until we were chasing something. We've always got to be the underdogs. We've always got to be comfy behind. It's like, is it going to take a couple of years of really underachieving in this league before we actually start climbing the table? Because it'll be when teams start thinking, you can press Accies, won't get it. They won't get it, nap us. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's always got to be the unexpected. Whereas, why can't we go into a game confident, know what needs to be done, and execute it? Ayr United, listen, they beat us in the League Cup narrowly. I don't think they did too much within the game. Took their goal really well. A couple of the players looked decent, but on paper, like you said, we should have a better squad. In reality, I don't think we do at the moment. I think we've got a serious case of confidence players where when the heads are down, fuck knows what could happen. Like I said, a couple of times this season, as soon as we concede, it could be anything. We need to take the lead, maintain the lead, and add to the lead and kill a game off. But that's not going to happen. Lineup wise, I mean, this is another thing. The club need to start sharing to the fans about who's available and who's not.
Because we're looking at that going,
Vertanen was missing.
Yep.
Moyo was missing. This isn't even about tactics. I mean, this is basic communication for a club. It's unacceptable. Like, it doesn't kill it. There's that many people with the ability to share the information. Get it shared. Like, the journals definitely ask us stuff. We've seen it firsthand. Get it out there. We shouldn't be guessing what the team's going to be or if they're available. Like, it's something that shouldn't be said, but repeatedly we have to to say this. That's our next point. What's the team going to be on Saturday?
Well, I think in my opinion it'll be pretty much unchanged for Arbroath, which is scary. I think Popescu comes in for Hamilton at the back. If Moyo's fit, I imagine he'd be in for Monroe.
I'm getting the notebook.
And that get the notebook. I think honestly, I think it'll be vast unchanged. I think you'll have Fulton, Matheson, Popescu, Easton, McDonald, Spence, and Vertanen if he's back in the middle with Mimno, and then you'll have Redfern or Smith, Ryan, and Moyo up top. Again, that's if Vertanen and Moyo are even available. That's what I imagine the lineup will be. If there's any mad changes to that, then I don't know. I was thinking about the possibility of them bringing out Fulton because of his errors, but Hilton's never looked very comfortable.
Nah, you don't drop.
Now that Fulton's number one, you know they're basically untouchable.
Why Sean won't drop then? I mean, he had his injury. He was on the bench.
On the bench, yeah.
So surely, I mean, I don't think he's put a foot wrong this season. Like you say, he had his moment in the Falkirk game, which led to a goal, but I actually think he's been pretty solid. He's been dropped a couple of times for Easton. Again, Easton, hot and cold. You can get a great leadership performance, but you can get someone that just looks so far off it.
Yep, and that was the case against Arbroath as well, it's worth saying.
We're talking about Popescu coming straight in for Hamilton. I think he is a more of a ball-playing defender, to be fair, but I think that's incredibly harsh on Sean Monty. He's just completely.
I would agree.
If anything, I would be putting him ahead of Easton, but in reality, we don't see what we want. We see what we think is going to happen, and he won't drop his captain. He won't. Like you said, he's grew up with the guy. He knows him. He won't drop Sheena. But again, looking at the notepad, I personally would have Sean Monty in for Popescu and your back four. So it'd be Matheson, Fulton in goal, Matheson, McDonald, Easton, and one. I think we need to stop this playing for the back. It looked incredibly laboured against Arbroath, and it just created more problems than what it was solving. If you're scouting for air, you are feeding that back big time. They will crumble if you press them at the back. I think you'll go. I think Vertanen and Spence together is too similar. There's no creative passing there. Again, not to pick on individuals, but Spence hasn't done enough for me yet. He goes far too much under the radar. He's not effective enough to be playing at this level. In my opinion, I don't think he's taken us anywhere. I think Nico Vertanen has shown a lot so far. He would definitely be in there. And again, not that he's been brilliant, but Regan Mimno, he needs somebody that can pass and open some kind of space. Again, the options aren't great. You've left Josh Mullen completely out of the team. Again, I don't think we can afford to, and I mean in that financially. Like, I don't think we haven't paid the money for an established SPL player like that and not play him. As stupid as it sounds, because listen, he has not impressed me, and it's the whole team. But this is somebody that we've all had high hopes for. I was expecting a bit more flair for him. Wait till he was a dead ball specialist. I've not really seen anything so far. But again, it's hard to play this football on a bad team. So he could always. It's still early doors for him. And like, when you look at the fact that he's played his first game after a couple of days in the door, I think we need to go with the names here. So I would be saying Lewis Smith and Josh Mullen, and two up top, Moyo and Ryan, like you said. Ryan isn't that kind of physical player. If you give him the chances, he will score. He's proven that a few times this season. Moyo needs to be winning the ball. We need somebody with a presence up there. Because let's face it, come on, man, we're talking about Ayr United. It's not like we're playing. This is a team we should be competing with. I'm not saying that we should be pumping them, but as a team that it's not like a top of the table team that we should be fearing. This is the level we're at. We need to be competing. We should be going in with a bit of confidence. But the fact of the matter is we have none. Because I mean, hopefully that really has put a fire under them last week, because it can't get any worse than that. It can't get any worse than that.
No.
So,
And if you were to give a score prediction for the league table, I think me and you are still sitting on 0 points. Brandon got 1 for getting the team right. I think we're still sitting 0. What would your score prediction be for there?
this is by far the hardest one of the season. As pathetic as it sounds, I'd be happy for a 1-1 draw, but we can't afford a draw, man. I'm going to go again. The positivity will kill me. That I always give Accies the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win, just purely because we need a response.
Yeah.
There's so many times we had this conversation, but listen, there's still plenty of time to make an impact on the season. It's only been 5 games, but we can't keep having this conversation and keep saying this line over and over. They need to go out and do it. So he needs to get his selection right. Like I said, the difference between having kids come in that are quality players or just throwing kids in for the headlines. Kyle Monroe isn't going to make that kind of difference for us. I don't think Redfern is ready to be a starting 11 player yet. It needs to be guys like Smith who have the ability in them and need to be proving this, that they should be starting, and a guy like Josh Mullen as well. So that's the lineup we'd go with, and we need a win. What about yourself?
I don't know if I would agree that Redfern isn't a first team player, by the way. I think what he's shown, I think he's like
starting 11 player.
Right, so
he's a first team player. He's not a starting 11 player.
I don't know. I honestly don't. I think he's been impactful at moments. He's obviously nowhere near the finished product or anything like that, but I think he's impactful at moments. I'm not. When I see it, I would rather see him line up than I would like a Kyle Monroe. This maybe sounds as if we're picking Kyle Monroe this episode. We're not, but I would rather see a Redfern than a Monroe. In terms of score prediction, I was pessimistic against Arbroath. I said 1 each. I get it. Same as you, mate. Optimism's going to kill me. I'm going to go 2-1 Hamilton. I'm going to go 2-1 Hamilton. I don't think we'll get the clean sheet.
It'll be laboured. No matter what it is, it'll be laboured.
Yes, it'll be laboured, but I think again, maybe I'm being naive, maybe I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, whatever. I do think we'll see a bit of a reaction from the weekend. I do. Now, whether that's breaks down to us actually playing good football or not, I reckon it'll be more of a Stuart Taylor will be demanding more fight from us, and as you said, it'll be laboured. But I'm going to go 2-1, but it's not a confident 2-1.
It'll be interesting because it's a home game, because that atmosphere will be interesting. I think it could be toxic, depending how we start off. We just seem so vulnerable at the moment. We really do, fans and team. Whereas it's just, there's plenty of people out there that called it, that said that it's not going to be a smooth ride, and obviously we're going to expect better things for our club. But I got to admit, it is catching me by surprise at how little confidence I have going into this game. I hope, like I said, I would just love a no-nonsense, completely dominate start to finish performance. A 2 or 3-0 win would be brilliant. We need to do better, so it's going to happen, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you've heard our score predictions. Be sure to let us know yours over on social media to get them involved in our league table. As I said, I don't think any of us get points other than Brandon, so me and Davis need to start picking ourselves up, or maybe we need to start being less optimistic. Maybe we need to start being less optimistic.
Let us into the team talk. Fuck.
I'm sure that would go great.
Embarrassing us, boys.
Thank you very much for watching. We hope you'd enjoy it. We'll be sure to catch you after the game for a match reaction as well as some clips from the press conference. We'll see you then.